He wasn't supposed to survive that mission. But here he was, 68 years old, hiding from a winter storm and a 33-year-old lie, because sometimes the cold doesn't kill you. It just keeps you quiet. You ever wonder what happens to the people the government forgets? Not the decorated generals, not the politicians with perfect smiles, but the ones who lived in shadows, the ones who vanished without medals, parades, or graves. This is the story of one of those men, a man who disappeared into the snow and thought he'd never be found. This is Echo Stories. We tell the tales no one else dares to. If you're ready for stories buried by time, subscribe now. And if you're already part of the family, welcome back. Now settle in, because tonight, the storm brings more than just snow. They called it Operation Snowfall. To the outside world, Walter Avery was just another retired guy with a bad back and a love for instant coffee. He lived alone in a modest cabin outside Missoula, Montana, a half-mile from the nearest paved road and 3 miles from the nearest neighbor. His daily routine hadn't changed in years. Up at 6, wood stove by 6:15, coffee by 6:20. Radio on, boots laced, snow shoveled, predictable, safe, quiet, just the way he liked it. The cabin had 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a living area, and a kitchen that smelled faintly of pine and dust. The walls were lined with bookshelves, mostly Cold War thrillers, a few weathered field manuals, and a dozen radios of various sizes. Walter liked to tinker, always had. There was a comfort in switches, in static, in silence. On the night it began, the wind had already picked up. Snowfall had started just after dusk and showed no sign of slowing. Walter had chopped enough firewood to last a week. His stove crackled in the corner. A worn flannel shirt hung by the door, damp from earlier. Everything was normal until the knock. At first, he thought it was a tree branch, but it came again. 3 hard raps against solid wood. Precise, hesitant. Walter stood. His knees ached. He grabbed the flashlight by the door but left the rifle where it was. He hadn't needed it in years. When he opened the door, a gust of cold slapped his face. A man stood there, late 20s, maybe 30. Snow in his hair, windburn on his cheeks. Dressed in a thick coat and jeans, not nearly enough for the weather. He looked like he'd walked miles. "Car died," the man said, voice shaky but controlled. "I saw the light in your window." Walter hesitated. Something about the guy felt rehearsed. Still, he stepped aside. "Get in before you freeze." The man stomped snow off his boots and entered. The warmth hit him hard. He blinked rapidly, glancing around the room like he was memorizing it. "Appreciate it," he said. Walter nodded. "You alone?" "Yeah, just passing through. Visiting my mom in Coeur d'Alene. Took a wrong turn somewhere near Lolo." Mm-hmm. He poured the man a cup of coffee and handed him a wool blanket. The guy wrapped it around himself, sat by the stove, and thawed out. Walter didn't speak. He just watched. After a minute, the stranger said, "This your place?" "No, I'm squatting here with permission from the squirrels." The guy smirked. "Right. Stupid question." Walter said nothing. Silence stretched. Then the man asked, "You ever serve?" Walter's jaw clenched. "What makes you ask?" "Just the vibe, the books, the radios. That kind of order. It doesn't come from civilian life. Lots of people like radios. Not ones that run on old encrypted channels." That stopped Walter. His eyes narrowed. "What did you say your name was?" he asked. The man paused. "I didn't." Walter's hand drifted to the edge of the table, toward the drawer that held an old sidearm he hadn't touched in years. "Relax," the man said. "I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to talk." Walter stood slowly. "You show up at my door in the middle of a storm, lie about your car, start asking about my past, and now you want to talk?" The young man reached into his coat, not for a weapon, but a photograph. He placed it on the table. It was old, bent at the corners, grainy. It showed a man, mid-30s, military gear, dust-covered face. Walter recognized him instantly. "Where did you get this?" he whispered. The man's voice softened. "He was my father." Walter sat back down, hard. "I don't understand. My name's Jacob. Jacob Nolan. My father's name was Thomas Nolan. He disappeared in 1985 during something called Operation Snowfall." Walter looked away. The storm outside seemed louder now. "You knew him," Jacob said. "You were on that mission. You were the only one who came back." "I wasn't supposed to," Walter said quietly. "I know." Jacob leaned forward. I don't want revenge. I just want the truth. Walter stared at the photograph again. 38 years. And still, those eyes haunted him. You're not going to like the truth, he said. Jacob didn't blink. Tell me anyway. Walter stood, crossed to a cabinet in the corner, opened it. Inside were 2 boxes, one labeled cold, the other classified. He pulled out the second one, blew the dust off, opened the lid. Inside, a map, a folder with faded CIA markings, a cassette tape, and a dog tag. Walter placed the box on the table between them. You have 5 minutes, he said. After that, you leave, and you never come back. Jacob nodded. That's all I need. Walter sighed. The stove crackled again, and outside, the snow kept falling. Jacob leaned closer to the table, his eyes fixed on the box as if it were sacred. Walter didn't say a word for a long moment. He just stared at the contents, his face tightening like a man forcing open a wound that had long been stitched shut. There was a time, he began slowly, when all I wanted was to forget what was in this box, but I guess I always knew it would come back. Jacob didn't interrupt. He let the silence carry weight. Walter finally pulled out the map, a faded, creased topographical layout of a mountainous region near the Afghanistan-Pakistan border, marked with coordinates, arrows, and 3 red X's. This was the drop zone, Walter said, pointing to a spot near the Kunar River. We were inserted via halo jump at 0300 hours, 5-man team. Your father was second in command. I was the comms officer. Jacob's hands curled slightly, fists tightening around his own knees. Why were you sent there? Intel said a Soviet general had defected. He had documents, codes, routes, names. If we extracted him, it would have crippled their entire Central Asia network. They called it Snowfall because the mission had to happen in a window of 36 hours during a blizzard. Full cover, no air support, no recovery plan. Walter reached for the folder. Inside were mission photos, blurry black and whites, faces half hidden by snow goggles and scarves. He pulled one out, showed Jacob. That's your father. Jacob nodded slowly. He looks young. We all were. Walter's voice cracked just a little. But sharp. He was the best shot I ever saw. And he had this stubborn integrity. Wouldn't compromise, not even to save his own life. What happened out there? Jacob asked. You came back. He didn't. Walter exhaled, deep, heavy. We located the asset, General Antonov, hidden in a cave system near the ridge, but we weren't alone. The Soviets had been tipped off, someone on the inside. We walked right into an ambush. He paused, lips twitching. 3 of our guys went down in the first 30 seconds. The cave entrance collapsed. Only your father and I made it out. Antonov was dead. And my father? He was shot in the leg, couldn't move fast. I radioed for evac, but there was no response. Protocol said to leave him, but I stayed. For 8 hours, fighting off waves of Spetsnaz until he made me leave. Jacob's face was unreadable. You left him? I didn't have a choice, Walter snapped, then calmed himself. He handed me the last tape he recorded. Said if I made it out, I needed to get it to Langley. That's this one. He pointed to the cassette ... I never listened to it. I couldn't. Jacob stared at the tape like it was radioactive. So you just ran? I crawled for 4 miles with a dislocated shoulder and a punctured lung. I didn't run, kid. I survived. But you didn't go back. Nobody did. The operation was erased, classified, buried. We were ghosts the moment we signed the damn orders. Jacob stood, started pacing. My whole life I was told my dad was a hero, that he died for his country. But no one ever said how. No body, no details, nothing. Because that's how they do it, Walter said bitterly. Clean and quiet. Heroes get graves. Ghosts get burned files. Jacob turned to him. And you? You just came up here to rot with your radios? I came up here to disappear. I was done watching good men die for bad reasons. Silence again. This time, heavier. Thicker. Snow pelted the windows like static. Finally, Jacob asked, Can I play the tape? Walter hesitated, then nodded. Jacob took the cassette with careful fingers like he was handling something holy. He walked over to one of the radios, slotted the tape into the old deck, and hit play. A hiss. Then a voice. Broken. Raspy. If you're hearing this, I didn't make it. This is Agent Nolan, Operation Snowfall. We were compromised. I believe there's a leak inside. The Soviets knew everything, timing, location, even our extraction route. If this reaches command, do not trust anyone. This goes higher than we thought. The voice broke off, coughing violently. Then, softer. Walter, get out alive. My son, his name's Jacob. He'll ask questions one day. Tell him I fought. Tell him I didn't give up. The tape clicked off. Jacob's hands trembled. Walter looked away. He believed in you, Jacob said quietly. You were his friend. He was my brother. Outside, the storm was starting to clear. But inside, both men sat still, wrapped in decades of silence finally broken. So what happens now? Walter asked. You gonna write your book? Tell the world? Jacob shook his head. Number I came for closure, that's all. Walter looked surprised. That's it? Unless you're ready to make it right. What do you mean? I did some digging before I came. There's one more name on that mission roster, one more agent unaccounted for. The guy who handled extraction. He's alive, lives in Arizona, off the grid. Maybe he has answers. Maybe he's the leak. Walter's eyes hardened. You got a name? Jacob nodded. Vincent Creel. Walter stood. His knees cracked. Get your coat, kid. Where are we going? To see a ghost. They left at first light. The storm had passed, leaving behind a white, glassy silence that blanketed the landscape in stillness. Walter's old Chevy Suburban growled to life after 3 tries. Jacob rode shotgun, map folded in his lap, fingers tapping nervously on the dashboard. It's a 12-hour drive, he said. You sure about this? Walter didn't answer. He just drove, eyes fixed on the road like it might vanish beneath them. Somewhere around Idaho Falls, Jacob asked, what was Vincent like? Charismatic, Walter said. The kind of guy who could make a room believe anything. You needed someone to sell a lie? He was your man. Smart, too. Too smart. And you think he betrayed you? Walter didn't respond immediately. He was in charge of extraction. He had the comms. He knew where we'd be and when. If there was a leak, it started with him. Why didn't the agency investigate? Because the agency didn't want answers. They wanted closure. The rest of the drive passed in silence, broken only by static from the radio. By nightfall, they were in Arizona, dry, wind-blown, and still coated in a thin memory of snow. Creel's property was just outside a dead mining town called Bismarck Bluff. The driveway was unpaved, surrounded by desert brush and rusting scrap. An old trailer sat at the back of the lot, its windows covered in foil, a chain-link fence circling the perimeter like a nervous habit. Walter stepped out first. The cold wasn't sharp here, but the air felt heavier. Wait here, he said. Jacob nodded. Walter approached the gate, knocked on the chain. Nothing. He knocked again. This time, a voice answered. Who's asking? Avery, Walter said. Echo unit. A long pause. Then, the door creaked open. Vincent Creel looked older than Walter remembered. Gaunt, leathery skin, hair gray and thinning. But the eyes were the same, calculating, cold. Didn't think I'd ever see you again, Creel said. Likewise. You come to kill me, Walt? No, Walter replied. Just want to talk. Creel's eyes shifted to the car. Who's the kid? Thomas Nolan's son. Creel flinched just slightly. You better come inside. The trailer was cluttered, dark and stale. Maps covered the walls, old military patches, newspaper clippings, a dusty bottle of scotch on the counter. Creel poured himself a drink but didn't offer one. So, he said, what's this about? Snowfall, Walter said. You remember it? I remember burying it, Creel muttered. We all did. Not all of us, Jacob said from the doorway. Creel turned, looked him up and down. You look like him, that same glare. He trusted you, Jacob said. He died because someone gave away your position. You were the only one with the data. And you think that was me? Creel barked a laugh. Jesus, Walt, all these years and you still don't get it? Get what? Walter growled. Creel leaned forward, eyes burning. There was no defector, no intel. It was a test. Langley wanted to see how deep they could bury something. Operation Snowfall was designed to fail. Walter stared, disbelieving. That's not true, isn't it? Creel threw down his drink. You think it was coincidence that the Soviets were already there? That your comms failed? They were never meant to work. Jacob stepped forward. You're saying they sacrificed my father on purpose? I'm saying he was loyal to the wrong people, Creel said. We all were. Walter's fists clenched. You knew, and you let it happen. What would you have done, Walt? Blown the whistle, gotten us all killed. I did what I had to. I walked away. And left us to die, Walter snapped. You don't get to justify that. I sleep fine, Creel said, because I don't lie to myself about what this country asks men like us to do. The room fell quiet. Then Jacob pulled something from his coat, a recorder. Press stop. That's all I needed, he said. Creel's face darkened. You recording me? Yeah, Jacob said, because I want the truth on record, not for the world, for me. Walter looked at the kid, this quiet, determined son of a ghost, and felt something shift. Not rage, not even peace, just clarity. They left without another word. Creel didn't stop them. As the trailer disappeared in the rearview mirror, Jacob asked, So now what? Walter shrugged. Now you decide what to do with what you know. And you? Walter smiled faintly. I think I'll go back to the snow. Back in Montana, the cabin felt smaller, but warmer somehow. Jacob stayed one more night. In the morning, he left the recorder on the table. A note beneath it. He deserved better. Thank you for trying. Walter watched him drive off, then turned the tape over in his hands. The snow had started again. Software relentless, cleansing. Some stories are buried in silence. At Echo Stories, we bring them back, one voice at a time.